Welcome to
How to Society.
today's topic is religion.
Ooh! Religion. The funnest thing that's ever been invented by humans.
Well, I still say that it was all invented by mushrooms, but
That there is a lot of theories out there that are all like, maybe we expanded our consciousness by eating mushrooms, so there is, but my question is, if that's true, if we expanded our consciousness by eating mushrooms, how did the next generation get the mind expanded from the mushroom?
it altered you substantially. Like
On a genetic level?
yeah, mushrooms are pretty special.
I feel like if that were true, there'd be some research into it.
True. There probably is. They just don't want to talk about it. I mean, the mushroom overlords would have put a halt on all kinds of investigating into their being.
I don't think that mushrooms spark consciousness, but I definitely think that it could have created religion. There's a lot of, I was listening to a podcast, and it was, I don't remember who, but there's a couple guys that were talking about the fact that spiced wine they used to drink in Europe would have a lot of different stuff added into it, like juniper and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff. And so you'd end up with these weird concoctions, and most of the shamanistic religions had it down to a science of like, oh, you want this? Here's the combination you're going to put in there.
Yeah, it's all about mushrooms.
It's all about mushrooms. Mushrooms are our overlords.
Now, the thing with religion, though, is it did kind of pop up in different parts that weren't connected.
Right.
So it's something that it's in our DNA to want to find something bigger than Tao,
Right. I mean, the question is religion a fundamental aspect of human, purpose or meaning?
It's in the psyche. It's
Right,
something, it's deep inside. Because, even during the cave experiment, they had their own worship system,
Right.
and they were literally in a cave. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Like when people just, not like us, but, experts, and basically it comes, from what I've, listened to is a lot of, like, we need something to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's that big shiny thing in the sky that's always glowing? Oh, well, that's a sun god. It's what is this? Oh, it's raining because of the rain god.
So I get where you're going, but a lot of cultures just went with magic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always trying to explain things around, and you're right. A lot of natural phenomena were attributed to a god of some kind. But how did that start to shape the culture? I mean, it ended up being very important in a lot of cultures because it stopped some people from eating others and from killing each other. Well, not really, because that just started. So it went from I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm gonna kill him because he worships another god.
Yeah, but it was, you were able to expand your group base based on your faith, and I think that was the biggest thing religion did for humanity.
Bring people together,
Right.
to kill the others.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So the question, my bigger question is, moving forward today, when we're going to a society where most people are non-religious, how is that going to affect us in the culture going forward? And because we've had so many humans who grew up in a religious system, and like you said, you think it's in our DNA, is it evolutionary that the people who were good at religion were the ones who got to procreate,
which comes to the main point. How does religion affect modern society, and how will it shape where we go from here? I mean, more and more people are starting to realize that we've been ruled through fear.
Right.
And, for many years, the Pope was an actual political position rather than just a dude who made things up.
Yeah, he had more power than most kings.
Mm-hmm. Now that's slowly going away, but the pull that the Pope still has is outrageous for somebody who... The way they even nominate the Pope is really sketchy. There's so much that's cloud and secrecy and, yeah.
Well, it's God's divine will, man. You can't let everybody know.
But, yeah, I mean, how... Yes, now the whole thing is with being an atheist, and that seems to be the growing religion. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but
Right.
it is becoming like that.
It's certainly taking over.
It has its upsides and it has its downsides. So I've met both sides of it, if you will. So I know some people that believe that, if you don't have God, then what are you going to believe? What's the point of even being alive?
Right.
Well, I've heard the counter argument to that. It's a very unique experience, and only the odds of it happening are staggering, and you should enjoy the ride for what it is. I mean, that should be enough motivation to stay alive.
Right.
That being said, the suicide rates have gone through the roof because of it, because a lot of people, all of a sudden, their entire reason to exist is not real.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that also has to do with the introduction of social media.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as atheism being the new religion, I would say that actually politics are closer to being our new religions.
Well, I wouldn't say that's new. That's
right,
been,
not new.
Yeah.
But I would say that because more and more people are not religious, that it literally is becoming
taking
a new
over
religion.
their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, you get to a point where you literally have people, like, it doesn't matter what you say, there's no solid arguments, it's just, these are the things that I believe in, and if you disagree, then we have a problem, and I don't think you should be able to share that opinion. Gotcha. That, to me, sounds exactly like what Christians do. Like, okay, so what's your reasoning for believing that? Well, I just do, so, now I'm going to try and control you through that.
Yeah.
And that's honestly my bigger concern, is especially with the far right and the far left. Those are like the radical religious sects of our political groups, right? And it seems like they're both growing substantially in recent days.
Yeah. Well,
and it doesn't even seem like it's just our country. It seems like all around the world there is this larger divide happening in most, democratic countries where that is becoming true. I don't know. What do you think?
Like I was saying, I don't think it's anything new.
Right.
The key here is nothing really that happened is new. The way we get our news, it has gotten better. Mm-hmm. So we hear more about it and we see it more prevalent. So it seems like it's more prevalent, but it's not. It's just more accessible. So as far as fanatical, political fanatism and stuff like that, that's been around forever, since the invention of,
right.
politics or the whole system. It's more a matter of now it's everywhere. And now we're in voting season, however you want to call it. And so it's like, I was watching a YouTube video. The video was maybe 20 minutes long, right? And I had to sit through 6 ads. The same ad. 6 times. And it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, that must have cost them a small fortune to show me the exact same ad 6 times. It's like, fuck off. Like, it really makes me never want to vote.
Yeah,
it's the polar opposite of what it's intended to be.
I honestly dread election seasons just because of all the political ads. And the closer you get to it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
And then it's just become constant, like every commercial is.
That being said, though, from what I've talked with other people about that whole concept, so one of the big things is when you're watching YouTube videos, you always get the whole, like, subscribe, follow.
Like, share.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Apparently, the common public needs that reminder constantly to take action. So I'm going to assume that that's why they put so many political ads, to make sure that they go vote.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still say that the reason the amount of people that are voting has gone down is because so many people are getting frustrated with the ads, and they're just like, fuck you, I'm not voting.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to religion, as a society, I feel like this is always a trend. As it matures, it gets away from the superstition. It gets away from the immaterial, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but it isn't a bad thing. It starts to focus more on the things it can see and prove, and not the things that are ineffable.
Well, this is something I was, again, listening to on a podcast, but they're talking about the end of major empires and stuff, and how one of the hallmarks of a ending of an empire is when sexual rights become a big thing. And as religion fades away, you have less and less people who are part of the same cultural group, and you have everybody splitting off in their different directions. And so as you diversify, there becomes this resistance between all these groups, and that can ultimately lead to the empire failing. Now, I think and they were referencing specifically the Greek and Roman empires, because when they had more
really sure they fucked everybody from the beginning.
Right. Well,
that wasn't
but
something later. Like,
well, it was more common later, where you
okay.
started having, you know, people who were doing all kinds of things. And so they're like, is this just a normal sign of when empires end, or was it just that back then, because of, you know, how much more committed you had to be to maintain an empire, that those kind of issues distracted from the real problems? But at the same time, you can see that happening today too. That these things that take up our social consciousness, like, you know, what pronouns to use, or what can I call you, or I'm non-binary, and we're all thinking about those kinds of things rather than like, what's the state of our country, or what's the state of the world, or what are we doing, you know? So I don't know. I'm not sure if those directly tie into the end of an empire, but it definitely ties into the ending of certain religious practices, especially for the, you know, Christians. So
I was much happier when I got out of religion.
I agree with that.
Like, because, you know, you spend, you know, don't kill people, you go to hell. Well, that's a given. You just don't kill people. I didn't need that rule from the church.
So,
you know, it was this constant living in like, oh gosh, was that a sin? Did I just commit a sin? And, you know,
here's the thing though, is you can make that easy. You can define what's morally right.
Yeah.
Easily. A lot of people can't. And even worse, some people know that it's morally wrong and they still do it. So
right.
If the people that still do it, I mean, there's no helping them. There's no amount of religion in the world that's gonna stop them from doing it, because I don't know what's going on in their heads, how they justify it, but I'm sure they have some justification for it. Now, the people who just don't know aren't able, they get something out of it, even if it's really weird, because it's like, wait, you need somebody to tell you that it's not okay to kill somebody? Right. I mean, and you need to be warned that if you do, you're gonna go to this Bernie place? So, yeah. But here's the thing, for modern society, what you can do, and I know this is cherry picking, because the reality is that's the only way to make religion decent.
Right.
It's if you were to take all the different world's religions and put them on, make a chart out of it, and find what lines up, there will be a column that's going to be populated by every single one.
Right.
If you follow those things that they all share in common, you're probably going to be okay.
Right, you probably found the base human morality there.
Yep.
Yeah,
and usually it's like, don't kill idlers. Be nice to others.
Yeah. Love everybody.
Yeah. Don't judge others. It's the very basic common sense. And yes, you don't need religion to tell you that. Some people do.
Right. Well, the thing that I find funny is you had Judaism, and Christianity was like the update for Judaism. And then now we're in this place where people are still holding on to Christianity, but the common Christian's beliefs do not align with the Bible at all. Like, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm fine with, gay marriage, or I'm fine with all these different things, it's one on blah, blah, blah. But it's like, if you actually go and read the Bible, that's not what it says. And the Bible also says that we, should be able to own slaves and stuff. So it's not this moral document that people want to say it is.
Oh, it is.
Right. And honestly, what we need in today's day and age is another one of those updates if we want to continue this religious affiliation. But I don't think that that's the right answer.
It probably isn't. I mean, here's the argument to an update. Figuring out who's got the authority to make an update,
right,
is gonna be the issue. Because anybody could write a book like they did,
and many people have.
However, back then, the reason the Bible took off is because of who was in power that decided that this was gonna happen. And then they lied their asses off. But nowadays, so let's say you had a book that explained everything from inception. You're going to be like, who wrote it? So you have two options. You could be like, well, Joe wrote it and Bob wrote it and, they got together and they wrote it. And we're all going to follow this because it makes sense.
Right.
And most people are going to be like, well, who the fuck is Joe, you know?
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could be like, an angel wrote
God
it.
inspired me.
God wrote it through my hands. Well, can you prove it? So either way, I don't care what type of logic you try to use. It could be the best written book in the world. Somebody's going to find an issue with it. And by all means, they should, because there's no way to prove it.
Well, and I think, like what you were saying, that the best and only update that we could have, like you were saying, would be to go through all the religions and find those common themes and have that be like, listen, guys, we need to be able to come together as a world instead of all these, what we have right now, and we need to be able to find a way to do that. But, I mean, on the other side of this coin, though, you do have so many people who they love their faith, they accept it, and it's like it's the only goodness and gracious they have, and it provides this community for them that otherwise they wouldn't have.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think if you tried to get all the religions into one giant world, there'd probably be another huge ass religious war, because like you said, there's people that hold on to that their specific faith, their specific religion.
So
and
here's my counter to all that. What's wrong with letting people believe in their own little sect, as long as they're not trying to force anything on you, and as long as they're not trying to kill you or put you through those what is it called, the gay therapy bullshit from
conversion therapy.
Yes, as long as they're not doing that to people and they're just literally just worshiping in their community and singing songs together, there's nothing wrong with that.
I would 100% agree with that, except for the fact that religion organizations try to affect politics, they try to affect our culture, and they try and like just the reasoning of having flawed logic will let you be manipulated that much easier. Like Trump saying that he is a evangelical, and all the Christians like, oh my, he is bringing Jesus back to the White House, praise God. It's like, no, he's not. And so that's the thing, even politicians have to feign religiosity to even get accepted by the culture today. And I would say that flawed reasoning makes us much more easily manipulated.
Plus, it's not fair that they get tax exemptions.
Right, exactly.
Because they make a lot of money.
Right.
I actually considered starting a religion and trying to get a follower because they make boatloads of money.
That's it. That's what the conclusion of this conversation is.
And I mean, I don't have a lightning rod, but in the words of Penn, God strike me down if me making a religion and making money is wrong.
Yeah. And see, the tax exemption thing, that's another thing. So that's something a Christian organization can get, or any religious organization can get, and yet they still won't help certain people. So it's there's supposed to be these charity organizations, which is why they get their tax exemption, and then they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, we don't accept."
Not to mention, they actually some of them get money from the government.
Yeah,
and they are able to exclude people.
Right.
That's not right.
Yes. Especially, and I know that was a big conversation with private schools when they were able to get federal funding, is they're all a lot of these schools have a lot of things that don't line up with the government. They're like, it's fine. And that's honestly my bigger concern right there, is that what these schools are teaching children, and even Christian colleges. So like you said, conversion therapy, they have Christian colleges out there who have a complete psychological department, and in that they teach that conversion therapy is a good thing.
Or the fact that they don't teach evolution and so on.
Right.
That's all fair. But I'm sure for every one of those shitty ones, there's smaller sects that aren't quite as asshole-ish about the way they go.
That and generally those people from Christian colleges, I don't think they actually legitimately go out into normal workforce.
Oh, they do.
Usually
they do.
Do they? Oh, yeah. I just kind of had it in my mind that they kind of stayed and worked within their religious area, and they're just we do this here.
There are, I know there's Olivet University, there I can't name them all, but there's a crap ton of religious colleges out there, and in those you have to take at least 1 year of theological courses before you can graduate, and if you just want to go there for psychology, you still have to take a year of theology before you can graduate. So it's there are, and some of them have good accreditation, and these are really good schools, but at the same time, they're still teaching you things that are
Yeah, But you could also argue that by trying to affect their beliefs, you are hurting them and you're breaking the rule of don't hurt others.
Okay, so I can see the argument, but at the same time, having somebody question my religion to a point when I was younger would have been more beneficial to me than having to come out of a religious home. See,
here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of like fanatics,
Mhm.
and it seems like whenever you start, the harder you fight with facts, the more they close up, and the more they believe in their own thing, because now it's like their whole world is crumbling and they hold on for dear life.
well,
So unless you're ready to open up and learn something new, you will literally ignore the truth. It could be blaring in front of you and you will ignore it.
well, I think the bigger problem is that people are coming at it from a perspective of, listen, I have science and blah, blah, when it's like, no, that is not where these people are. We are stuck back in a Iron Age religion, and we need to come at them from the Bible and be like, hey, so back here, this is what it says. What do you think about that? Is that morally acceptable? And they'd be like, well, I mean,
I've tried that with like just discussing politics with people, and I've gotten death threats.
Well,
So-
and then there's the whole argument. I've heard this argument so many times. A lot of the really, what's the word I'm looking for? Killy, nasty bits of the Bible are from the Old Testament. You know, that's when God was on the rag or something. I mean, like, God knows what she was going through.
Right.
But, you know, she had a vengeance out. So anyway, I've made that comment to people, and that's how they argue it. It's like, it's from the Old Testament. We've moved from that. We now only believe in the New Testament.
well, but in the New Testament, they still say slavery is okay. They still say...
I know. But you know, the fact that it's like they can just ignore
Yes,
half of it just to make sense of it,
Right.
that should tell you everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. But I mean,
Mhm.
I guess I just think...
It's like, oh, no, that's just the old part. We don't believe in the old part. We believe in the new part.
Well, I always like when people will, the Bible says this, and I'll look through it, and I'll be like, okay, that's Old Testament. So you realize that Jesus' sacrifice did away with the Old Testament, right? And it's still a part of the Bible. So it's just a weird flip from what he said. It's just like,
I know.
What they say is that God didn't do away with the law, so that's the Old Testament. What he did was he kind of subjugated the law, so he took the place of the law. So instead of us having to follow the laws, we can now follow Jesus, and what is it? He didn't... Give me a minute. There's a verse exactly about this. He didn't come to do away with the law, but to fulfill it. So basically, he fulfilled the conditions of the law so that we could live in a period of grace. That's what they say. And we should still respect the law, but we don't have to follow everything in it. We just have to
so
do
it's kind of like jaywalking.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
The old law is like, you can eat shrimp now, but you still shouldn't kill people. But yeah, they say that Jesus fulfilled the law, like that final atonement sacrifice, because that's what
That
he
is just a
wants.
really convenient loophole.
Mhm.
Not even a loophole, but it's just super how convenient.
Yes, but yeah, no, and I agree. But at the same time, Christianity opened itself up from just a Jewish religion.
Mhm.
Like, it could have become just a Jewish sect to a religion that went to the Gentiles. So they had to figure out, oh shit, how do we get these cultures to agree with our religion? Because they do love eating pork and they don't want to circumcise at the age of 30. So,
Wait,
you know.
they used to do it at the age of 30?
no, but what I'm saying is there was a debate back in the very early days.
Oh,
of
I gotcha.
Christians.
In order to convert.
Yes,
gotcha,
if they
gotcha.
had to.
Okay. Whew! It
Yeah,
just
no.
brought horror to my mind.
No, they do that right away, like 8 days in or something.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Here's what I just think is, I mean, it's believe whatever you want, but, Christians are like, we're the one true religion, but they're only 2,000 years old. So how did they come to that conclusion that they're the only one true when there's obviously several
Because they're the
older
only ones to claim that the Son of God came to Earth, even
Right.
though there's a story for
Yeah,
that
but look
in
at
every
the-
other religion.
True, but it's just, they knew they were lying.
Well,
They had to
yeah.
have known they were lying. But, look at the Mormons. They believe that the Roman centurions were in
So
North America.
here's the actual explanation.
Okay.
Yes, Christianity is new,
Mm-hmm.
but Christianity didn't just
Well, yeah.
It built itself on another religion.
It
Yeah.
came from the
Judaism.
no, the dude's name.
Jesus?
No,
Are
the
you
other
talking about Mormons?
No, the words.
Moses?
No.
Abraham.
Yes.
Abrahamic religions. Okay.
There you go. It came from
Yeah.
that. And that came from all their beliefs.
Right.
And all the beliefs.
Well,
so
yeah,
there is a
I know.
lineage that
I know.
So when they said that,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't talking about Christianity being the oldest religion.
just-
It's their lineage being
Yeah.
the oldest religion.
Yeah, but I mean, then you have Islam can say the same thing because they're an
Mhm.
Abrahamic
Mhm.
religion too, who updated even Christianity. But it's a weird update because it almost seems like it's less progressive
Mhm.
than Christianity in some ways.
I want to talk about the Mormons for a quick second.
Let's do it.
So I was looking up, like ghost towns, and there was a Mormon ghost town, basically.
Sex cult.
No, and well, I mean, yeah, but so basically, what they want to do was, the dude was baptized by Joseph Smith himself, and Joseph Smith sent him to. He's like, go spread it here. This is the town I want you to go to. And then, like, it ended up failing really badly here because, one, the spot they went to, like, the housing prices were super high. And so, like, there's still a church there that they had built, but they left shortly after. So, I don't know. Mormons are just weird.
So let's talk about Mormons for a second, since you brought them up.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that their whole commandments thing is invisible and only the dude could see them?
yeah, so
how does that work?
Joseph Smith, I think he was like 14 or something. He got a message from an angel, and the angel gave him these golden tablets and in a special ruin to read them through, but only he could see them, and then he ended up losing them, so nobody else could see them, unfortunately.
So he misplaced an
Yeah.
invisible thing.
Either that or the angel took him back or something,
Okay,
but
okay.
he's like, oh, but these were direct translations from them, and then, yeah, so...
What's
That
the other
sounds
thing?
like,
Is that Roman centurions were in North America?
I don't know, but I do know that they believe Jesus is coming back in Kansas, so...
Why Kansas?
Because
don't-
that's where Jesus said he was coming back.
Because that was the edge of the frontier at that point, yeah, and according to Joseph Smith, that's just what he said. He's like, I'm coming back to Kansas City,
You know,
suckers.
after he lost his invisible tablets.
Yes, yeah.
So how did he...
You know, we could Google this, and I'm sure we could actually, get
I don't
solid,
know if I want that.
But
I
this is my base understanding, is
Okay.
all of that.
I don't get how you could, like, hear this shit. Like, let's say 2020.
Scientology.
Well,
Yeah.
Scientology. But, like, 2020.
There's a lot of examples
No,
of how gullible people
I
are.
know, but, like, let's say it was me and somebody's like, hey, you gotta go check this out. I went and this guy was, the founder, he spoke to by an angel, gave him these tablets, only he could read them, and then he lost them. So now nobody can read them. If that was me, and there's a lot of gullible people out there. Like, we legit worked with somebody who were like, gullible's written on the ceiling, and they looked, and they tried to find it, and obviously it wasn't there.
Right.
But it's just like, I know as myself I couldn't buy it. I just find it weird that there are people that are that gullible.
Well,
And see, but this comes back to my point of if you accept a false ideology, just to begin with, you are that much more acceptable to be manipulated, because then you're like, oh my god, this guy does make a lot of sense, and I don't need real facts to back it up because everything he's saying feels true to me.
So I think to add to what you're saying, it's not so much that you can be manipulated. It's more like if you use fact A as the foundation for all the other facts that you have, and the fact A happens to be false, then
Right.
you're kind of fucked.
Exactly.
Because you're literally using that as your pillar to
Yes.
hold off anything. At the same time, since that is literally holding up everything, you're not gonna let go of that fact
Right.
for anything unless it literally falls apart on its own.
Right.
So, as far as modern day society, I feel like what we really need is to find a way to not make fun of people for their beliefs or even question their beliefs. I get the questioning. You enjoy questioning things.
Right.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people
accurate.
like things to be digested and spit into their mouths. I hate putting that image in your face. But that is true. And if that's how they need to live their life and to be happy,
Then they're wrong.
they need to go ahead and do that. So, we need to find a way to coexist with people who have beliefs that you find to be outrageous.
Right.
As long as they're not hurting you,
Agreed. And
it doesn't matter.
And that's my thing. As long as they're not hurting anybody, including the children they're raising, I have no issue with it.
Now, there's a bunch of arguments for the whole separation of church and state, and arguments on both sides about moral compass and bullshit. It comes down to, can you have morality without religion? We've already talked about that. I don't think they're associated, but they're not mutual. Exactly.
Mutually exclusive.
So, again, it comes down to finding a way to help everybody.
Right.
And I mean, the Romans did it for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean,
but the Romans also had an a
They
literal.
also had the Colosseums.
But I mean, they had literally, you were a Roman citizen or you were a second-class citizen of
Sure.
their empire.
but they allowed people to keep their own
Yes,
beliefs
yes, that is
if
true.
they chose to. And Christians were not the reigning
Yes.
body at the time. They were fed to lions. So,
Yeah.
anyway, but the whole point is they still had tribes that were part of the Roman Empire that had their own belief system,
Right.
and they interacted still.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not unheard of. Mind you, it's...
No, and
It's a different time.
I think that that's a really good point, though, because if you think about the Roman Empire, a lot of their beliefs got, I don't want to say infected, but influenced by the Greek myths, and they kind of accepted those as their own myths, made them their own, and they did the same thing with Christianity, leading to the Roman, the Christian.
They literally stole the entire Greek pantheon
Yes.
and renamed it.
Yes. And
How is that okay? That's cultural appropriation.
All right, so but that's the thing. Like, if we want the society you're
Wow,
talking
you
about,
touched me. I need to be sanitized. I touched a guy, or I was touched by a guy.
You almost enjoyed it.
So anyway, the thing about that is, the cultural appropriation thing is that is how societies historically have moved forward. We meet a new culture, we appropriate some of them, and then we can all kind of come together with that culture. So even the cultural appropriation is kind of limiting us in that way, because it's like, no, we do need to be able to take from each other's cultures to understand each other so that we can move forward.
Racism.
Whoa, we're talking about religion.
I know.
Well, there's been a lot of racism in religion.
That is also accurate.
And that's
But-
why we can't move forward, is because obviously we still have people that are stuck in a time that was not very good. So they're gonna, just like you said, they're gonna hold on to that, and that's what they enjoy, is they just hold on to it. 'Cause they don't like change.
Learning from others is the only way to really grow.
Right.
And so it's all comes down to, again, racial diversity and bringing in all the different cultures and learning from them. You don't have to take everything from them,
Right.
because as we determined before, everything is flawed.
Right.
However, if you put everything in a spreadsheet and look at the columns, there's going to be universal truths.
Well, yeah, and that's yeah, yep. It just seems like today, instead of coming together, we're trying to separate into smaller groups. Like, we're trying to fraction ourselves off and be like, well, I identify as a cisgender gay
Well, that's
male
just
who
human
only
nature.
likes penises every now and then and
It's-
in my dreams. Like, it's
it's-
like, can't we just like?
It's pretty straightforward. Everybody wants to be the star of their show.
Yeah, you're right. That is
What
right.
better way to get attention than to be unique
Yeah.
or be
True.
different?
And it's also just human nature, because, you will gravitate towards people of the same mindset.
Right.
So that's why it's very hard to join together and unify, unless there's some tragic event that happens that forces you together.
Yeah, but you would think COVID would have brought us together, and it's done nothing.
No, because it was politicized. That's
Yeah.
why it didn't bring, and that's essentially
Which
why it was
I think is
politicized.
ridiculous that they made a freaking disease
Yes.
into a political statement. Like, what the fuck is wrong with
But the
people?
problem is people aren't as educated as we are.
Well,
I mean,
So we can see
would
through
say,
the bullshit.
I would say open-minded, not necessarily
Sure, yeah.
educated, but yeah.
But yeah, the whole point though is, if a bunch of people want to gather together in a church and
Right.
sing songs,
And
listen to old stories that the the priest is literally making up because that's what they do. They're just a overpaid MC. Because they literally just take an idea and make
Expand on it.
They make up a story to
Yes.
explain the idea.
Right.
That's what they do. So if you want to go do that and waste your morning doing that, you go for it. And I'm sorry I said waste. If you want to go enjoy that and that makes you feel good, go for it. However, when you come out of there, you should not feel holier than the person who didn't go and try and make them feel bad and make yourself feel better by making them feel less.
Yeah.
Same way, if you want to pray, how many times do the Muslims pray?
7 times.
7. If you want to pray 7 times a day, I don't even do anything 7 times a day. I don't even poop 7 times a day. Like, I don't even eat 7 times a day. So if you want to do that much devotion, you go right ahead. You're not hurting anybody. Unless you do it in the middle of the road. That might be. I'm sure there's laws
I mean, there's a
against
difference
that.
between doing it not hurting anybody and then doing it like, I don't think there's a specific word for it. There might be, but like killing in the name of your. Obviously, don't do that. That's terrible.
And that's not what I'm
I
talking
know.
about. I'm talking about worshiping, and
Right.
that's because there is. Believe it or not, there is a chemical thing that happens
I was
in your
actually
brain.
bring that up, right?
Dopamine.
When
Like-
you are in communal worship, your brain literally, it's like connecting with the other people, and it makes you
It
feel
is
better.
a legitimate thing, and it's been actually documented.
Yes, and you can even do it with like the happy birthday song. If a large
Yeah.
congregation of people are just singing a song together, people feel closer and connected.
So,
I don't.
oh, shut up. Anyway, the point is, if you want to go sing songs about this God, you go do that. If you want to go pray about this God, you go do that. If you want to sit perfectly still and not think about anything, you go ahead and do that.
Okay, hold on.
Wait, hold on. Have you ever been to a concert?
Like once.
And did you enjoy yourself?
Not really.
Oh my God. You
You're
are just
lying.
the worst human then.
It was
Then you don't like
it was
Community at
Country
all.
USA, and I was
Okay,
surrounded
well-
by a bunch
Have you
of
never really
rednecks.
been to a concert?
I've been to one.
Do you
Really?
like
And it was Country
do you
USA.
like do you like music?
I enjoy music.
Would you ever go and see somebody perform live?
Probably
if
not. I
somebody
don't
you
like
enjoyed?
large crowds of people.
Oh, I can't tell you. Well then, I don't know how to talk to
Just
you.
like legit, I don't like when people sing happy birthday to me.
Okay.
I don't like
But
it.
yeah, but that's different.
That's just me though. I'm sure there's other people
So-
like me, but I
Okay,
it
so the
doesn't make me-
majority of people do feel
Yeah.
communal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Please don't separate me. This is what we were talking about. We were spent
No.
like 35 minutes talking about not separating people.
And then you just put me in my category
Yeah.
and say I'm not worth anything.
You guys labeled me.
Anywho. Yeah, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you go ahead and do your brain
I want
exercise.
to talk about the Crusades then, because that hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's not the point. So the Crusades were literally religion being
Right.
politicized.
Politicized, right. But I don't know. I agree that a lot of... You can't just say that today's rendition of religion is all that matters, because you do have to take into account everything that happened, because if you're not looking at that, then you're not paying attention to what can happen when a society
Sure.
becomes that religious.
Then we will apply the same facts to science.
Right.
How many atrocities has science done in the name of
Okay,
progress?
but... So like, okay, give me an example.
How many do you want?
Chemotherapy.
Well, okay, but isn't that a moral good as chemotherapy because it's helping
Yeah, but it was
people?
discovered as a chemical,
Let's just
Destructive
talk about
chemical.
everything we know about hypothermia. How do you think that came about?
Probably from people realizing that when people got cold, they died.
No, the Nazis did experiments on the Jews on how to freeze somebody to death and how their body reacted when you lowered their core
Okay,
temperature.
the Russian
but
sleep
again-
study.
Again, we're talking about a fanatical
No,
political
they were
establishment versus-
scientists
They might
that
have
had
been-
access to better toys.
a moral scientist, though, and that's
Science
the thing where this,
can be very immoral.
and I agree with this, but that's where we need our cultural morality to line up, because if you have an
That's
organization,
fine. And my point, and you just made it, is the past it's important, but it isn't what determines everything, because you're just saying now that science needs to be in a present moment more moral. And what I was trying to point out is that science has been as immoral as any religion out there in the past.
But science is able to correct itself at a much faster pace than religion.
Yeah, that's fine. But that's not the argument.
Right.
The argument is that the past does not make the present. It can heavily influence it, but you could still have an end goal that's good. Like, you could have a moral end goal.
Right.
Even if you come from, like, beating people over the head with a rock and looking through their brains.
But then that gives credence to this whole, violence can be an answer if it leads to a moral good.
No, I'm just saying you need to abandon that completely,
Right.
and build a new...
Okay, I would agree with that, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. The past, although it's there, you should learn from it, but don't fucking look at it as a guidebook. You need to come up with something new.
Right. Right. History can only teach us how to avoid the blunders we've already had.
Which it doesn't.
I don't know.
We know more about history now than we ever did, and we're making the exact same mistakes.
Yeah, but
it's almost like a manual on how to fuck society up.
Yeah, but at least now we have enough people who know the history well enough to see the signs, and there are plenty of people out there talking about, oh my god, it looks like our empire.
But nothing's happening. We're still like
the problem is that
foot's...
the people that are recognizing it aren't in a position of power to change it.
The foot's still down on the gas pedal. There's just somebody in the backseat yelling. And that's all that is.
And Joe Biden is asleep up front.
Pretty much, yeah. So, again, does religion help with society? I think it has a role to play. Now, I cannot say this enough. It should be separate from everything else. Religion has no place in education, science, government, daily life, yes, because you can, but it should not intermingle with anything. Mm-hmm. It should be its own little thing that does not associate with anything else, because it's the same thing as I was going to say, what sport you like? But God, there's just as much violence over sports. So we're just flawed humans.
Can you imagine if you went to the doctor and they're like, no, I can't do this because it's against... Like, I'd be pissed.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to find a new doctor, obviously. But then, now you've,
Well, let me put it how this sounds. You can't marry him because it's against your sports team.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing.
Right. That's really stupid.
Well, I mean...
My sports team doesn't like that.
Exactly. His sports team will not allow it, so you can't do
What
it.
if my sports team's the Packers?
That's fine. Your sports teams won't like that.
Packers are great, but if,
my sports team
But what he's saying is... What if you got...
after it?
Oh my god.
God, there's gonna be so many hicks after you after that comment.
That's fine. I've already got death threats.
Right. The thing is, it's like if you got your morals from your sports team. But I think the biggest problem humans have is dogmatism. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is, no matter how great of a society you're trying to create, when you become dogmatic, that's when it becomes a problem. Because you're like, it has to be done this way.
Politics are dogmatic, sports are dogmatic,
Yes.
Everything is dogmatic nowadays.
See, I would honestly say that rather than religion being the thing that is in our DNA, I would say dogmatism is the thing that really sets us apart.
Rather than dogmatism, I'd say it's just we have this desire to quantify and categorize things.
Yes.
And that's what happens.
At a certain point...
It must be like this, otherwise it's not right.
At a certain point, a lot of people don't want to have to keep questioning things. They're like, you know what? No, fuck you. This is the way it is, and I don't want to think about it anymore, so...
Yeah, they already had Bob eat all the mushrooms that kill you, so... we can eat these mushrooms, so... Right. So, final thoughts.
You can go first.
I guess my final thought would just be because the way I grew up, I am not a proponent of religion. I don't think it's a good moral for society, and I do think that overall, if religion continues the way it is, it poisons most everything it touches. But that's my personal opinion.
I was just gonna say, I agree with what you said. Just religion should just be here. It needs to be out of everything else. Religion is just something that you should enjoy during afternoon tea, and not try to force feed people and fuck up the world.
Right.
I'm probably not gonna do it justice, but I'm gonna make a quote. Religion is like a penis. You just shouldn't try and shove it down people's throats or whip it out in front of kids. And that's how to society.
That was great. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the conversation, come and meet us again, and like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. We really want to hear about your feedback, and hit that little bell for us, and you can get updates every Friday for when we put out a new video.